Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So Ian speaks. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy. Tiny Theater. Clap, 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 clap.
Speaker phasing test. This is the left channel. This is the left channel. This is the right channel. This is the right channel. Warning. Signal level will now increase. Reduce volume control setting. Drum beat test for stereo spread.
So I probably would have killed myself if things were any harder than they really were. If they were harder. Like any at all. Or maybe like a larger fraction of harder than just any. But I'm saying, within the relative spectrum of harder, if they were of a certain order harder, then maybe I would have. Luckily, they never got there, but I was the type, you know? And yeah, I don't mean that to sound bigger than it was. I just think of it sometimes, you know? Like when I'm standing by a body of water that keeps moving in the wrong direction. Or like when I'm holding a salad fork. Like how many times does life find you and there you are, holding a salad fork. Like there you are, with a salad fork. In your hand! And sometimes you're not even eating a salad, so... I want to tell you about a particular day in my childhood. It was the best day of my life. Someone recently asked me, tell me about the best day of your life before you were 10 years old. It was an icebreaker, and so I sat there thinking about the best day of my life, and then, poof, it came to me. I remember I was playing Little League Baseball, T-ball. I really do remember being on the T-ball field. The first field on your left as you enter the complex. And I remember that whole morning knowing perfectly well, knowing with very much assurance that my father was going to take me to Toys R Us after the game, that he was going to buy me an Atari video game, and I just knew that this would be the case. And so I was so happy playing a baseball game, which was a perfectly okay task during the moments in which it was occurring, but which was a wonderful task once it was over. And the Capri Sun was hitting your lips. And as the game wore on, I began looking over at my father on the bleachers there, and standing behind the fence down the right field line there, and I'm sure I communicated with him once or twice, like with a nod or a smile. And slowly, as I could just tell as the game continued, that my father had no intention of taking me to buy a video game at Toys R Us after the baseball game. Just wasn't something that really, crossed his mind. Though before, I had been so certain, and I quickly replayed all the reasons, all the foolproof, airtight reasons that I had so recently relied upon to prove to myself that today I would be heading to Toys R Us after the baseball game to scroll down the video game aisles and select an Atari game that would be as perfect as the previous Atari game I had selected several months back. And suddenly all those perfect reasons collapsed. They revealed themselves as the enormous fictions they were. Nothing. I could see now that nothing could substantiate them. In the dugout, I began to think, I could see how deluded I'd been. And as the innings continued, I became certain, I became assured, we were not going to do that! We were not going to go there to Toys R Us after the baseball game to purchase a video game and be happy. Oh, so happy together. And I couldn't understand how I had once been so certain. And we didn't. We didn't go to Toys R Us. We just went home. And that was the most beautiful day of my life. The best. Before I was 10 years old. Because I can remember it so well for no good reason. I am constantly dying, and I am constantly being put in a warm bath, in warm bath water. Do you get that feeling these days? Like these are the days in which you are constantly dying and constantly being put into a warm bath. You're extremely cold, and your fingers are beginning to fuse together, and the water is healing. It is like anti-torture. And I know I would have killed myself many times if it were any harder than it really was. I would have injured. There would have been no way out. Because you have to take a small animal in your hand, like a small dog, and you have to grab it, like softer than soft. You need to look at its head to see how small its head is, the brain space. So undersized if you look at your own head size instead. Life has been so unfair to so many of God's creatures. And people say they hate people, but people are the only things that think to hate things such as people say. So there's that. And I can only remember the worst days and the worst places while I stroke the lymph nodes on the sides of my neck. People in the subway are frightened as I do that, but I can't help myself. I wear skinny tie and bright red sneakers, so I'm doing my part to fit in. For I was so overjoyed. I was so happy with myself that my bones had come together with such flair and precision, that my mandible came together with my medial nasal process like that, that I was a self, a nervous hematological mess, branching and branching for air. I was not quite a fractal, but I could understand fractals. Not the math, but the idea of their existence. The concept of the idea of their existence, that is. I'm looking at a $12 cocktail now, and a bad photo of myself from 8 or 9 months ago from under a bridge in Manhattan. I'm looking at an image of Antoinette Artaud that I stole from the Morgan Library. I got it by putting it in my mouth. only look at your hands. And yet it cries in the night. And I cannot water it, though I would like to. Yet still, it begs for water, though it never really asks. Not a word. And they call that New York, which feels both nostalgic and sad. Surrounded by warm bath water and anti-torture and Toys R Us, fathers and sons, Morgan Library, and the size of a human being's fusiform head.